I'm joined now by my guest, who is the president and chairman of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Examiners. I'm joined by Dr. Iliyasu Gashinbaki. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us on Business Daily.
Thank you for having me.
Doctor, you have heard the comments by Nigerians on social media, but let us hear from you now. How important is forensic accounting, and how can it be used, to ensure that we have, transparency and accountability, especially in the Nigerian public sector?
All right, thank you so much, Chiamaka, for such a good question and for the invitation to this program. Forensic has wide implications. It's a subject that cuts across 127 disciplines and still counting. So it's cross-cutting in nature, and it therefore is so diverse that its implication for the financial services sector, for the law enforcement agencies, the entire criminal justice system needs forensic. And let me add that better late than never. This is something that should have been at the front banner like ages before now, but in 2022, precisely in December, the federal government assented to the charter for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria. And that's the sole body responsible for regulations and training, advancing the science of forensics and investigations in Nigeria. The Institute has wide-ranging powers, which include, pursuant to Section 13 of the Institute, that gave it powers to establish forensic laboratories, which will be used for analysis for government, for law enforcement, for the private sector, and for even individuals. And beyond that, the Institute also has a college called the Nigerian College of Forensics and Fraud Investigators, which is the premier arm of the Institute that deals with training and retraining for both the public and the private sector, including law enforcement. Then, of course, Section 6 also of the law empowers the Institute to establish what we call diplomats of forensics. Now, because I've said earlier that forensics cuts across 127 disciplines, you now have a situation where how do you deal with that? How do you have one professional body that can address all the issues together? So Section 6 of the law empowered the Institute now to advance forensics and fraud investigations across the multi-sectorial and the multidisciplinary natures of forensics. So, so far, that's the bit in terms of highlight of the Institute that will situate how the Institute now is being used to fight economic and financial crimes or corruption in Nigeria.
Well said there, Doctor. That has been my guest, who is Dr. Iliyasu Gashinbaki, speaking to the effort of the Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Examiners, especially in the area of fighting corruption and economic crimes. But there is still much more to come. So do stay. The conversation continues right after this break. Do stay. And you're still watching Business Daily, coming to you live on Trust Television. And right before the break, we started a conversation on how Nigeria can use forensics to fight, economic and financial fraud. And I still have my guest here with me. He is the president and chairman of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Examiners, in the person of Dr. Iliyasu Gashinbaki. Thank you again, Doctor, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Doctor, you have mentioned, the efforts of the Institute so far.
Yes.
I mean, since it was, introduced. But I'd like to hear, the challenges, especially in the area of the challenges that you encounter, or as an institute, you have encountered, in the area of combating fraud and corruption. And how have you been able to overcome the challenges so far?
All right, thank you so much, Chiamaka. Quite frankly, the challenges are enormous in the sense that when you look at corruption and economic crimes generally in Nigeria, the preponderance and the rate at which it happens and the manner in which Nigerians support or embrace corruption is highly appalling. So that's actually the first challenge, because the Institute does not operate en masse, it operates in Nigeria. And because you operate in an environment that is choking, and that literally from the public and the private sector of the economy, the challenges, you see them every day. So we are confronted with that reality that every sector you look at, you find that stress. I will give you an example. Let's look at the examples of the issue of fake certificates that we've seen all over, cutting across from political class to financial institutions to education institutions to even institutions within the revenue management system. Now, you have this issue of fake documents all over. Credentials and certificates, revenue receipts, all sorts of documents.
Forgery.
Yes. So it's one area that the Institute has come out to tackle head on. And the challenge there, like I said, is the preponderance that when something is limited, it's easy to deal with it. But when you see a situation where the issue is almost in every area and every sector, so it becomes a bigger problem. So, but what do we intend to do there? Two things. One, we have the forensic laboratories, that two specialized labs that will deal with this issue of documents forgery, which is the document laboratory that analyzes any form of questioned documents. It will throw it up. You know the difference between the fake and the original. And I think we'll put an end to that across board.
We keep our fingers crossed and hope to, of course, like you said, see that indeed comes to an end. But let's talk about collaborative work you have done with, anti-corruption agencies like the EFCC, the ICPC, to ensure a more coordinated and effective approach to fighting fraud. What has been done so far in the area of collaboration now?
Okay, in the area of collaboration, thankfully, when the charter, even before the charter, EFCC has been our biggest supporter, because the college, which is the Nigerian College of Forensics and Fraud Investigators, is domiciled within the EFCC Academy. And we hold all our activities and trainings there. We have so far, even before the charter and since the charter, trained a wide range of officers across the Nigerian Police Force, the Office of the National Security Advisor, ICPC, EFCC. We have trained all of them as part of our own contribution to making sure that they are exposed to the highest level of professional skills, cutting-edge investigations techniques and all of that. So that collaboration is going on very well with the EFCC, and I think more of that will happen because I can tell you, we are the only institution, even government departments, EFCC doesn't allow them to use their premises. Because what sense does it make that you use their premises today and tomorrow you are in their detention? It doesn't make sense. So we are the only, but uniquely, allowed by the EFCC to use their facility without any hindrance. So that collaboration within the law enforcement sector is very, very robust. Further to this, we are planning now to extend that to the judiciary. Because again, when you succeed in building the capacity and training and supporting the law enforcement community, they stop at the level of investigations and prosecutions. So, but the judges also need to understand the admission of forensic evidence in accordance with the Evidence Act, in accordance with the Police Act, and in accordance with the protocols of delivering expert witness in courts. So they need to also come to terms with all of this. So if you are saying you have supported law enforcement community alone and you have not also looked at the judiciary, the case will be stalling. So again, that is one area that the Institute is in the works. The collaboration will get to that tier of government very soon. And then of course, for the National Assembly, what we intend to do is to also prepare them to know how to do their oversight functions very well. Their constitutional responsibility of oversight. They have a lot of investigative committees. So far the Institute has offered pro bono that every investigation committees they have in National Assembly, we are willing to provide back-end forensic analysis that will guide them to arrive at the actual facts that will guide their investigation activities.
But doctor, it's not news that Nigeria, spends a lot in hiring foreign forensic experts.
Yes.
Has that changed? I asked because since the introduction of the institute, has there been any changes in that regard?
I would say that is changing.
It's still changing. It's in the process.
Yes, and the biggest signal that is going to change or has changed is, number one, the robust relationship we have within the law enforcement community. But more than that is the president's decision to appoint an investigator, an indigenous person, to investigate the Central Bank of Nigeria. So for me, it shows, because before now, ordinarily, such high-level investigations would have been given to major, maybe the big fours, and it would have been maybe somebody from Europe or North America that would have been hired to come and do the investigations. But I think for the government to appoint a Nigerian to do the investigation, and I also followed up on it, the entire team were all Nigerians. So I think that's a good sign. And beyond this, because the institute is new, we are now telling governments, the federal and the subnational governments, to look. We now have the Forensic Institute that regulates all of this. Patronize the local professionals so that you reduce the issue of capital flight. Over the years, in capital flight alone, we spend close to $50 million every year in capital flight associated with foreign experts in the field of investigations. And that is necessary. Yeah.
But I would like for us to touch on, the role that forensics can play, especially towards the economy and economic growth.
Yes.
Just recently, and even more recently, we have, had a lot of conversations around the Nigerian crypto economy.
Yes.
The stamps that the federal government has put on it, and people, talking about the enormous potentials that are, inherent in that sector. But is Nigeria really capitalizing on that sector? And, there are fears and concerns, valid fears and concerns, from the federal government. But is there a role that, forensic and auditing, can play towards ensuring that this sector is properly regulated?
Enormous. If you look at other jurisdictions that crypto and fintech thrived, they had stiffer, clear regulations in place. We understand that the cryptos and the fintechs, they are always, even in Europe and in North America, they are ahead of regulatory authorities. So governments and regulators are playing catch-ups. However, it is important, better late than never. What we need to do is not to be scared of the crypto potential and the crypto economy. I can guarantee you that Nigerian banking system or the Nigerian financial system is one of the highly advanced tech-driven economy that we have. But what we need to do is to make sure that we sanitize the space. Central Bank, NDIC, all the key regulators in the space, SEC and the rest, should ensure that we have proper regulations in place that will guide the operations of fintechs and cryptos. The current approach of either banning them or over-regulating them doesn't help. Just go ahead of them and put in the regulations that matters. And now the Institute is also calling on FG and all the regulators that let's work together. There is nothing to fear. We can make this thing a lot better. I had the privilege of meeting the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, His Excellency Atiku Bagudu. And I told him that particularly the issue of Binance, for us, and similar issues like that, you can say that that is absolutely an economic sabotage, because you can see that there was an invisible hand that was behind all of that. There was no way that the artificial weakening of the naira would have happened within that space. And somehow we were caught sleeping and a lot of havoc happened. So all we need to do is to sanitize the area, and the Institute is ready to work with the regulators and the federal government to make sure that we have protocols that checks that and makes it more seamless.
But doctor, comparing the situation in Nigeria with, I would say, global practices, what can because we have seen even countries embrace cryptocurrency as their legal tender. For instance, country like El Salvador, and major international payment platforms also do the same. So what can Nigeria do that is in line with, international practices that have succeeded in these other countries that we can adopt in the cryptocurrency sector?
Simple, easy steps. Number one step is normally these regulations, especially for cryptos, to some extent, they are almost cross-jurisdictional. So that's why you are here. You can trade in any of the cryptos around the world. So the regulations are almost around. So the first thing is to adapt and domesticate. That's step one. Step two is to look at also what are the local issues that has to do with the state of technology infrastructure that we have that powers these things as to their level of sophistication. Then the third is to look at also the security firewalls to ensure that can you operate seamlessly outside regulatory purview, or that can we have a bad eye view of everything that happens within that space. So I think that's what needs to be done. And once we do that, you discover there will be winners at the end of the day, because it's not something, that's the way the world is going. Crypto is the future. Fintech is the future. The world is becoming more and more integrated, and you can only wish it away to say you will not be part of that system. Yeah.
Okay, Doctor, I will be diverting a bit now to issues around looted funds and utilization of these looted funds. Rightly. That is one area that I believe Nigeria needs to pay close attention to.
Yes.
What can be done now? And I'd like for you to tell us to ensure that there is the proper utilization of looted funds.
Well, beyond even looted funds.
Funds generally?
Yes. Generally, I think Nigerians should hold the system accountable. What is happening in Nigeria is lack of accountability. You can be transparent and not be accountable.
Even with youths constantly calling out the leaders on social media.
Yes. So we are now moving from transparency to accountability. So transparency is not enough, which means telling us that this is the budget and this has been budgeted and you can find online. You are seemingly being transparent because we can find the budget online, right? But being accountable is now when you come to tell us this is what every kobo has been used for. So regardless of whether the funds are looted or they are appropriated funds that we currently have, the governance structure that will ensure its effective deployment and utilization should be the same. And that's why also the Institute comes handy with all the skills that can track and trace to ensure that every dime that is budgeted, that public officers are held also accountable and responsible for accounting for what they have done with that money. So, but that accountability, it does not just stop with maybe the forensics or the auditors like us. That's where you people come into play.
The media.
The media. The media need to amplify what we are doing. The media need to hold government accountable by focusing on those pillars of accountability. So when that happens, because the media has so much power, when that happens, you see that there will be more careful. Because one of the major problems of Nigeria is that it's not like Nigerians are different than any other people around the world. But we have a country where there is no consequence. So, and once there is no consequence for whatever, you can do anything and get away with it, then that's where the problem lies. So there should be consequence. And the only way to ensure consequence is to ensure accountability. And ensuring accountability will mean the media, the civil society, and overall Nigerians should take interest in making sure, knowing that after the budget is announced, let us also know what the money has been used for.
Indeed, all hands must be on deck to ensure accountability and transparency. But Doctor, just before we go, I would like to, know the kind of support the Institute is expecting or currently needs, from the Nigerian government, especially towards, attaining the vision and the mission that the Institute has for itself.
Okay, I think the differentiator today for us will be the rollout of the 5 laboratories. We have 5 laboratories that the Council of the Institute has approved to be established. Number 1 is the document forensic laboratory that will deal with all sorts of documents to review and analyze and remove the fake. The second is the digital forensic lab, digital and cyber forensic lab. That one will deal with anything, computers, servers, cameras, phones. It analyzes all of that. Then the third is the engineering forensic lab. Now, we have this huge challenge of product specifications. There are so much fake products in Nigeria that are just being dumped. What you have as product specs is not exactly as what the actual product is. On one hand, also, there is the issue of concrete and structures. We have so many building collapse, and we are yet to have people prosecuted. It's because there are no laboratories that can analyze those things and throw it up. For the products, whatever the Nigerian Standard Organization is certifying now, we still know that fake products from countries, especially from Asia, still find themselves into this country. So we need to eliminate that. Then the medical forensic lab, the one that will deal with DNA. DNA has far-reaching implications in crime investigations. It's not just on marital issues. It's far more on the crime side than that. And then, of course, there is the toxicology section that deals with toxins and all of that. Then the last but not the least is the physical forensics, which, of course, most people are familiar with. That's the one you see in movies. They condone the area, and then they apply some chemicals to take fingerprints. And all sorts of blood stains and all of that, and they analyze it further. So physical and ballistic forensic lab. So these 5 laboratories are only on, when was it? I think on Wednesday. On Wednesday.
Just 2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago, we were in the office of the Inspector General of Police, and the idea is for us to collaborate on the establishment, on the rollout of these labs. We are also working with them to see how to activate Section 4 of the Police Act that empowers the police to authorize private detectives and private investigators. So since we are now the specialized arm, the trained professionals, we want there is a signage on that, on how that can roll out. So all this will end up building the capacity of the police itself, because you now have private investigators that can help in investigating so many cases for people and then bring refined products to the police or law enforcement for prosecution. So in summary, I think the major area that we want collaboration with government now and discussions at various stages is on the laboratories. NIDA, for example, they came out to say that, look, we are interested in your digital and cyber forensic lab. Let's work together to see how we can make that happen. And when with NIDA, I think we can get the unicorns in the tech sector to also support it. Because if we sanitize the tech sector, the integrity of what they do and the trust of the public is in the fact that their technology is foolproof and there is no way fraud can be committed. But anything that affects them harms public trust in what you do in the tech sector.
Well said there, Doctor, and very insightful conversation that I have been having with the president of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Examiners, Dr. Iliyasu Gashinbaki. Thank you, Doctor, for all the insight you have shared with us on today's edition of the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on the program for today. But join the conversation on social media and let us hear your thoughts on all the insights that our guest has shared on today's edition of Business Daily. Business Daily will be back with you again on Monday by 11 o'clock. So do well to join us again, same time, same station. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.